Hey there, Timmy. What if I told you that you could go from playing like this to playing like this? Well, stay tuned. We're gonna show you how. That's coming right up.
What's going on, everyone? This is JT from JTTechie.com, and today I'm going to be showing you my tips on how to transition your chords more quickly and more easily. So let's go ahead and level up guitar. These are my top 6 tips to transition chords more easily. These are what helped me out throughout my guitar playing career, and I'm sure it's going to help you out as well. And some of these might be kind of like no Sherlock, but some of you may be beginners and you may not be aware of these as well. Be sure to watch until the very end because I'm going to share with you a bonus tip that really helps skyrocket me to learn a lot more songs more quickly too. What you're not going to see on this list is a typical, practice a lot and trying to train your muscle memory.
But JT, by you saying that, it's the same as if you were to list it.
Alright, I know that, okay? Get off me. Tip number 1, and I get asked this question very often, and that is, when do you actually transition the chord? And my simple answer to that is, at the very last up strum before the end of the actual strumming pattern for that chord. So for example, let's say you're on a C chord and we're just playing a simple down, 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 up. So when I'm strumming up, that's when I'm going to switch to the next chord. And in this case, I'll just play, as an example, A minor next. So let's hear that. Down, 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 up. And then that's when you notice that's when I actually lift my finger off and change it to an A minor chord during the final up strum of that strumming pattern. One thing to note is when you're playing the last up strum during your chord transition, you don't want to emphasize that last up strum. You just want to play it gently. Okay, so it'll just sound like this. Tip number 2, while you're transitioning your chords, try to not move your hand too far away from the fretboard, alright? Because the more space or more distance that you are taking your hand away from the fretboard, then that is more distance, more time, more effort that it takes for you to transition the chord. Okay, so just kind of... Tip number 3, when transitioning chords, lead with your finger that's going to play the bass note. And by bass note, I mean the deepest, lowest note. So let's say, for example, on a C chord, when transitioning to a G chord, you want to lead with your middle finger so that that finger lands onto the 3rd fret, 6th string first, and then the rest of the fingers can just kind of land after that. And the reason for that is because the bass note is really the most important note to have the sound come out when you're playing that chord. And let's say, for example, switching back to a C chord, lead with your ring finger, right? Because this is the most important note for that C chord. It's a C note. Eventually, with enough practice, you're going to be able to just switch chords and have all your fingers pretty much land at the same time where they need to be for that next chord. But until then, just lead with the finger that will play the bass note. Keep watching, there are more helpful tips coming right up that's really going to help you. Tip number 4, identify shortcuts when transitioning chords. So what I mean by that is when you are transitioning from one chord to the next, sometimes there are fingers that don't need to move anywhere, like they stay anchored in place while you transition the chord. So let's look at a few examples. From the C chord to the A minor chord, notice the only finger I moved was my ring finger. And take a look at the diagram box here just to see it more clearly. Then of course we've got the G chord, and I'm playing the G alternate chord. This way or this way, it's still a G chord, whatever you prefer. So let's say you're playing a G chord like this. You can transition to a C add 9 by moving your index finger and your ring finger down 1 string each. See that? Here's another example, E minor to a B7. Okay, my middle finger stayed in the same spot. One last example, F sharp to B minor. I'm just going to keep my bar finger where it is, the index finger, and all my other fingers move down 1 string each. Tip number 5, when you're practicing your chords, always keep your right hand moving, okay? Keep strumming, 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 because when you are transitioning your chord and you suddenly stop and you look at your hand, and sometimes your right hand will also stop the movement, it really kills the rhythm. So honestly, just try to keep strumming while you're transitioning your chords. Of course, this is a lot more difficult if you don't know your chord shapes. So of course, try to learn where your finger placements should be for each chord and keep practicing that way and keep strumming with your hand and don't let your hands stop. Tip number 6, learn just one chord transition at a time. So let's say, for example, that you're learning a song that has 4 chords in it. Just learn one chord transition. So for example, from a C chord to a D chord, and don't move on to the next transition until you master that, because a lot of people will kind of just try to learn them all at the same time, like just jumping one to the next, and they never really get used to it, and it ends up taking much longer than it needs to be. So keep learning the C chord to the D chord, and keep doing that back and forth again and again until you master it. And then go on to the next chord transition. So whatever that may be, D to E minor. Now here's a bonus tip that will help you build up your chords knowledge library more quickly. And this is exactly what I did when I was learning guitar at the beginning, was that suppose you're learning a song that has 4 chords in it. After you master that song, try to find another easy song that only has chords that you've already learned, plus one new simple chord, so that, you know, the song will be really familiar already to play, except you learn one new chord. After that, of course, you just keep repeating that cycle. Once your playing improves much more, you can start to learn 2 chords at the same time, or even 3 chords at the same time in the next following songs. In the description box down below, I've got a playlist for you. It's only super easy songs. I would recommend you go ahead and check that out. It only has songs that are relatively slow to medium tempo, and they've got only easy chords in them, and some of them even have one simpler bar chord in them. So it's a great way to build up your skills until you get into the more advanced songs. If this video helped you out, please like and subscribe, and also share this video with one friend. And until next time, keep leveling up guitar, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.